Hey everybody, it's your buddy ABT Pro, Advanced Visualization Technology Productions. Okay, so here we are. I'm deciding, I know we're like what? July 13th, and so the deadline is actually August 9th, and I think on August 9th, ZBrush 4.0 is coming out, so that's funny. So I guess you're going to have to get in a little bit of the ZBrush that you have now, which is, I'm working with 3.2, which is different on the Mac. But it's not a ZBrush challenge. It is a modeling challenge. So you can use any modeling application you want, and it is a challenge, not a contest. So there's not a bunch of big prizes or anything like that. The motivation is to challenge, and so it's to challenge yourself. Now, I used to do Frazetta drawings. I may have done Frazetta drawings. I can't remember. I'm sure I've done some of them. But Frazetta was always, one of my main inspirations. I watched the DVD with the Frazetta DVD, Fire and Painting with Fire. Wonderful DVD, total autobiography of his life. Documented some of his young pictures. Lots of young pictures when he was very young. Lots of movies and things like that, and really documented his life. And I think all artists should do that. I've tend to lost a lot of work and stuff like that. Lost photos, family photos, and stuff like that. I have very few of that. My brothers and sisters probably got them, but and they holding on to them. Selfish. No, sorry. Anyway, but anyhow, so the thing is that anyway, as far as that's concerned, I offered them to let me scan them, and then we could post so we can all share. So that's why I call them selfish, because they're not sharing. But anyhow, the object of this, excuse me, I'm gonna move this mic closer. The object of this challenge is to challenge yourself. And so I used to do a lot of Frazetta pictures, and there's a lot of Frazettas to choose from. So it is to honor Frazetta, who died recently. His wife died, I think, a couple of years ago, I'm not sure. Ellie, and she ran a lot of his business, and so there's a lot of information about that. His daughters, his sons, which I didn't know a lot about, and so very, very blessed situation. The DVD was phenomenal, and one of the things that they brought up, and I'll just as an offshoot, a small segue here, is one of the things they brought up is whether Frazetta is a fine artist or not. And so once you are classified as an illustrator, you're not considered a fine artist. And I think that's bunk. And anybody who knows anything about real art knows that Frazetta is a fine artist in every given word of it. Yes, he did illustration, but he's a fine artist. So, the whole thing is I think it's crap, because just because you work for a living, a fine artist work for a living, and I tell you, a lot of what they call fine art is not art. And a lot of fine artists will do illustrations. And a lot of the people that are in the gallery doing fine art, they're really doing a form of illustration, because a lot of it is just, to sell to galleries so that galleries can make money. So that work is just is fashioned towards the gallery. So, whether there's an artist who is just doing work for the sake of art and not to sell, there's very few fine artists that are actually doing that. So to call him not a fine artist is wrong. Any man with a legacy and who have influenced so many arts and movies and people, what's his name? Schwarzenegger probably wouldn't be governor if it wasn't for Frazetta painting, because Frazetta did Conan. He made Conan famous, and which made Schwarzenegger famous. Anyway, but what I'm saying is most of the artists out there, Anyway, beyond that, even if you didn't agree that he was a fine artist, I do believe that there is a form of promotion and knighthood with that. We don't have knights, but Christopher Lee was just knighted. You know, I don't know if Ian McCullen is I don't know where he's from, if he's British or whatever. But you know, a lot of fine artists were, even if you were a fine artist, you were knighted. Made a nobleman, because they worked in the king's court as illustrators. So basically, they did anything that the court or the king would tell them to paint, or whoever was in power, which is why you have so many religious paintings, which is the Pope. And I started out as a fine artist, but especially as a black artist, I had to make a living, you know. So, you know, even though that's why I always call myself an artist. I don't call myself an animator or anything. And really, I found out that Frazetta didn't even call himself an artist. He calls himself a sportsman, you know. So anyway, that's why he got so much energy and power in his work. So if you ask me whether he's a fine artist, yes, he's a fine artist that did illustration. He was classically trained, and he would have gone to Italy if his father hadn't died. And that's another thing I spoke of, a vlog that I didn't actually post. So just to be clear about that. And another thing I want to say about the challenge is that, and I've been talking over with my Facebook group, and members of my Facebook group, and especially active member, which is Reg, who posts a lot of his work, and I invite a lot of other people to post their work. I may even change the name, because I know how artists are about ego, and so they might be concerned that I might be getting credit for running the group. They're not concerned about me maintaining the group, but anyway. So what I'm saying is that you know, one of the things that concern me about this work is that, you know, when choosing from the multitude of fine, beautiful illustration and artwork that Frazetta did, and all these beautiful classic works done in classic painting style, oils or whatever. Let me tell you another phenomenal thing while I'm thinking about that DVD. Is Frazetta, later on in his life, he got sick, right? And he had strokes and things like that. And then he couldn't draw. He couldn't paint with because he had flinching in his right hand. He literally switched to painting with his left hand. Whew. There are so many few there's been known for that to happen in a fine art world, but there's very few people who have ever done it successfully. So if anything, that should qualify him. He was a fine artist. And you know what? It's the late, great Frank Frazetta. Let it be known. You know, the late, great. He's the great for Frank Frazetta's. Artists used to, actors and stuff like that would tremble in his presence. I mean, they said that when he walked in the studio, you know, I mean, men would faint, you know, because that's how tight this guy was. I mean, he was like, you know, anyhow. So, but, you know, he was, you know, praise God, he's a lineage of great fine artists. Okay, great artists. And what classifiable is really they just arguing over politics. So whether or what, and that's why they won't give digital artists any money, because they can't make money from the paintings. So, you know, unless really it's all an issue on the money from the paintings. Okay, I won't go on and on about the politics of art and why I choose not to deal with a lot of it. But anyway, here we are. Let me talk about my challenge. And so it's a challenge to challenge you to be a better modeler. But I need to be a modeler, rigger, and animator, okay? So, and a story writer or whatever, you know, a director or whatever, producer or whatever. So, you know, it's many hats. You know, an artist will wear many hats. Now, I started out as a fine artist. Now, I am talking about being a film director. He also did films. There's very few, you know, Dolly was a fine artist, and he did films, you know. So anyway, and this is the thing. You know you're a fine artist if you don't get along with Disney, That's a rag, okay? Anyway. So I had to choose between one of them. Now, I had a vision. This was my first choice. I wanted to do this one. And I don't know if I have a clear one, but I have a lot that I wanted to do. And I had to narrow down my choices. So this is the main one I wanted to do. And I wanted to do it for several reasons. You know what? When stuff gets stuck at the top there, I always can't get to it. I always have to change it. So, and I did it again. So, I don't know. Let me get. I'm trying to go to Cascade Arrange. Cascade. Okay. So, I don't use Photoshop like I used. So this was my first composition, and this is still in the running, and I still can't decide. So there's these bodysuits, you know, that are really great, and I just saw a beautiful picture of Kim Kardashian and what's her name, Coco, you know, Ice-T girl who took the name Coco from me. Anyway, but there's a beautiful thing in her in a very tight cat suit. And so this is from Battlestar Galactica. And so I wanted to do this one, and then I would do one and just transpose the other ones and just mark it. So basically I would do this main figure here. And I wanted to do this for a couple of reasons. First one of the DVDs I got for Noman is this kind of thing, a cat suit kind of thing. And it's the kind of Supergirl, Spy Girl kind of thing, rock star kind of look that everybody has the cat suit, that the women had the cat suits that accentuate their form. And so I wanted to do this, but because I just like the stance. To me, this is very Frank Frazetta. It speaks of a certain time, the grand type of time. It's very grandiose kind of pose and the kind of thing. And they still do it lots today in the movies and the compositions. So I was going to do this one. And, he is known for, and I found out on the DVD that a lot of people wouldn't say that, he does big butt women, but, big legs and thighs and stuff like that. But the boots and stuff is something I also wanted to form. And then he has a certain style with the face. And so this was my first inclination. I'm still stuck on it. But here's the advantage, on a modeling advantage, and this is why I'm choosing why and why not to do it. So on a modeling advantage, it would be great. So I would do the Frazetta form. So the biggest thing about this whole challenge for me is to do a female. And so I haven't concentrated on females because they're erotic and they could be, I don't want to go too far off into that kind of thing. If I ever wanted to be a million, just make money and do stuff, I just do naked females, and that's not what my art is about. I have a certain amount of integrity when it comes to my art, and I don't want to make a cheap dollar, so I don't do females because I could get locked into that, but I do want to do human female forms and sexy female forms and stuff like that for the sake of other things for film, animation, or the integrity of art or fine art or whatever, illustration or whatever. So this would be a good thing. And then it has the suit and the wrinkles, and that's always great. But I did a lot of that when I did the digital dial. So, if this was a study for cloth, I would have done it. Except for some of my DVDs that I'm studying for Nolan, it is this kind of character. So that's why I want to do it. And so I want to explain my motivations behind what I do and don't do. So I was thinking about that. But then I came across, all right, so these are nude models. And so I could do the female form and just study the female form. But that wouldn't be good enough. And plus, I could rig and model this and animate that, and that would be wonderful. But this would be boring to rig and model a naked woman. It wouldn't do anything. So I canceled out a lot of these, which is what I'm really tempted to do. Oh, I keep doing it. I know I could hide this thing, but I just don't use it enough to even be worried about it. Okay, so then I saw this the other night, and I just fell in love with it. Now, the thing about this is that as far as a Frazetta form, it is not the Frazetta form. It's not the classical Frazetta form. And so it's not even very sexy or, as they say, gut sexuality that he usually have. But there's some very interesting elements in it that makes it very appealing for an animation, a rig, in which I do have to, as I mentioned already, multi-purpose, or as you know, used at every part of the animal, so to speak. So if I model this, then I have to rig it, and so, but then also I thought that some of the things that could be done on this is more interesting, like the patterns in here, the little strips here, and not just a full cloth suit, and this kind of stuff up here, and this here. So I could do some cloth, which I do need to do, but then it has attachments, and this doesn't really have any attachments. It's just a straight cat bodysuit, and plus there's hair. And so I would probably take the hair in Maya if I have to rig it. And so that's another thing. So that's a huge appeal, is that if I do it, I wouldn't be just done with this. Now, this doesn't really have a hair flavor kind of thing. It's that beautiful Rosetta wavy hair, romanticized hair, but it doesn't have it. Now, again, I love the face, the form and stuff, but I don't have to actually stick to this, even though I do want to make her Asian, which this is not Asian. So I do want to stick to that. So I was thinking about taking some stuff of my old girlfriend and maybe adding some of that, adding some flavor like that, or photos of Asian girls or whatever, you know, the original Coco, whatever. So, and plus, there's not this amount, and I could just focus on this. And then these would translate good as an animation character. And then as an animation character, ninja animation, that would fly. So I think that this is a real win. And so this is the one that I'm deciding on, even though I would like to do this. But once I do the basic mesh, I can still kind of decide which one I do. So just doing the female mesh is the core reason for me to do this. I haven't done it in ZBrush. I stay away from females and ZBrush now. Believe me, I love women, but I've just totally avoided that. And I mainly study on a male anatomy. And so, but boots and stuff like that was good, but I can still do boots form and add my own detail to this. So if I do this, it's going to be the Alonzo Von Threet version of this. It's not really to do just a Frazetta. So again, it's challenge, and again, I get into these challenges, these mini challenges and whatnot, and I don't really go for it for the reasons of those challenges. I use it for my reasons, my needs and stuff like that. One thing I do, the body type is very Asian. It is not the female, the regular female. So it would be, now the Asian, you know, in some cases they don't appeal. They're not as curvaceous. It's a different body type. So to some men it doesn't appeal to, or the American standard. In some ways, it does or does not appeal in the hip area, because they're known for not having the big kadunks and stuff like that, and that's what Americans like. But, you know, to me, beauty is beauty, and so there's a special beauty that is specific to Asian women. And so there's a lot that I will try to focus on, is the legs and things like that. Also, the pose on this is very weak. Is not a strong pose. And again, for me, for what I could use it for, it will be, again, animation. So the posing will be part of the animation. Now, would I use transpose in ZBrush to actually do it? Yes, of course. And it does, transpose and ZBrush has a form of rigging. And so it's really deep. There's several level ways to pose a character in ZBrush. So as far as the face, I am going to try to stick to the face as Asian as possible. And so Asian, and so that is a very broad term, so I don't know what that means. So that's my idea. Whether I stick to it or not, or change my mind in a few minutes, I don't know. But a lot of the Noman DVDs, I think that now the thing is why I'm switching back and forth, because the last Noman DVD that I bought is the full cloth character with the bodysuit. But you know, I figure I could hold that for later, and I think that this would be just a fun, interesting, more fun, interesting piece to do, as opposed to a realistic type of piece and cloth and stuff like that. Like this quilted pattern and things of that sort is what I would like to get, and it would be interesting. And then I'm not going to do a heavy paint job. If I even paint it at all, I would just colorize it and make this red and make that, you know, whatever skin tone is, and make that white, and I would be done with it, you know. So I'm looking, and again, I'm happy about the attachments. So, and this could be interesting, string and cloth and stuff like that. And so that could be some dynamics that I can add in Maya. So that's the full breakdown of how I'm going to choose. And then I'm going to choose this. I'm going to look at one more DVD, and I'm going to try to resist the temptation to go into something else. And I am going to try to stick with this. This is very much, you know, a lot of the what are entertainers, performers, female entertainer performers. This kind of outfit, Gaga, glamour, Beyonce, Rihanna, Beyonce, Gaga. I had to switch the order. You know, that kind of thing. This kind of stuff is pretty much what they do. So I think that is also a more mass appeal, whereas the bodysuit would not be. So, so that is my decision. That's my choice. I'm going to try to stick with it, and then get on to the mesh, and then I'll know for certain after I start the mesh. Okay? Talk to you all. Love you all. God bless you all. Talk to you soon. Bye.